this life. And this wisdom of the small things, it really begins to ask the questions, does small things really matter? Do small steps, do small actions that we take in this life, do they really matter? You've maybe heard of the verse, Zechariah 4:10, that says, "For who has shown contempt for the day of small things?" Who shows disregard for the day that you do small things? And I read that verse and I was like, I think that's a good verse, but what's the context of that verse? Because I didn't want to just throw out a verse and not have any context, because I don't think I'm that familiar with the Zechariah. Maybe you're not familiar with them either. But the book of Zechariah recounts how those that were taken off to Babylon and those that are beginning to return back from captivity, they're getting back to Jerusalem and they're beginning to rebuild the temple. And as they begin to rebuild the temple, the prophet Zechariah is using different illustrations. And one of the illustrations that Zechariah uses is a plumb bob or a plumb line. You know, that line that has a weight at the bottom that you would hold to make sure your wall is level or your foundation is level. And so the prophet uses that illustration of a plumb bob. And in the context of that passage and really Zechariah 3, Zechariah 4, what he's talking about is, and I'll put it in my own terms, is if you're going to build a strong foundation, you need to use a plumb bob. And a plumb bob is this small little thing. But if you neglect that, everything else is going to fall apart in time. Everything else is going to fall apart in time. And it makes sense that he would use that illustration. And you think about the context of the people coming back from Babylon. They're coming back and they're discouraged. They have a temple that they need to rebuild. And do they really need to waste time with this little thing? If they're like me, they want to rush at it, get after it, get it done, but you got to go slow. You have to take time to make sure it's level. That plumb bob is essential for foundation, for walls, for building. So too is obedience. The small